Now that we know what each color means, it's now time to put them together to create different moods. In this lesson, we have 7 different moods that we're going to take a look at. There's going to be more when we move forward, but these are some basics that you should keep in mind when you're color grading your videos. So let's get started. Import all of your clips into your project and create different sequences. I labeled mine according to the mood that I will be making for that video, so that it's easier for me to just go through each one. Let's start with one of the basics, which is when you want to take a video of a fun event and you want to make it memorable. Maybe your client gave you some birthday videos and they want you to color grade it. You got to keep in mind that you're trying to make this video something memorable. Therefore, you want to add some warm colors and make the video look really fun. So as we know from the previous lesson, warm colors include yellow, orange, red, and cold colors include green, blue, and purple. Of course, there are more colors in between these, but those are the basics that you should know. So let's begin by making this video more fun. The video itself does have a lot of colors, but we're going to just pump up the warm colors and bring out more of the vibrance that is already in that video. Remember, when you want to make something fun and exciting, you want to add more light to that video and bring out some of the colors that are already there. So let's go to the basic correction and begin creating a fun mood for this video. First, let's bring some light into this video. Increase your exposure. Then your contrast. Highlights, I'm going to decrease it a bit. Get those shadows going. Decrease the blacks. And increase those whites. I'm going to decrease the shadow just by a bit. Once we made everything a little brighter, we're then going to move into white balance. So we want to add warm colors to this video. Therefore, adding a little bit of warm temperature is going to keep that tone throughout the entire clip. Add that on. I'm going to skip the tint, and now we're done with basic correction. Let's move on to the Creative tab and increase the vibrance of the video. So when you're creating fun clips, especially in a setting like this, you want to think of fun places like Disney World, Universal Studios, and any other place where you go to have fun. So if you step into those locations, there's a lot of bright colors, lots of lights, and you just want to recreate that setting inside your mood. So by increasing the vibrance and the saturation, we're going to make those pinks, reds, and all those colors pop even more. Sharpen the video. So just by the basic correction tab alone, we completely transformed the video. So go to color wheels and match. So we're going to get these 3 wheels in the color wheel section. By now you should know how to use them, but here we're just going to use these wheels to apply a color combination. So we want to add the colors that we mentioned, which was yellow and orange, to the wheels that you see right here. So for shadows, we can just go for a nice yellow. Just pull this guy towards the yellow side. You don't want to go too intense because then it's going to look like they're in a really hot environment, which is not the case. So just drag this down to something like this. And as for midtones, I'm going to make them orange. So go towards the middle side. Again, not too much, just a tiny bit. As for highlights, we can balance things out with the color opposite to warm colors, which is a nice blue. The original combination is yellow and orange. We're just adding this cold tone to balance the intense yellow that we had before. Once you have this, you can use the bar right here to work with the luminosity. This is bright, this is dark. For midtones, I'm going to bring it down a bit and darken the shadows too, creating contrast in the many items that we have around. As for highlights, I just want to increase it. So now we have the tints. This is before, this is after. You can see we took it away from that cold environment and added these warm colors to make this video look more fun. If needed, you can go to the curves adjustment, create an S-curve. And I'm just going to head back to the creative section, increase the vibrance a touch more. Let's get the exposure to be around 6. Now for the sky, because it's just a plain white surface, I will use the HSL secondary to just tone it down a bit and maybe add a different tint. So let's grab the eyedropper tool and sample this white color. Turn on color gray and you can see it instantly selects the white bits. First, let's blur the selection so the edges don't look that sharp. Maybe we can add some tint. So we used yellow and orange to make this video more fun. So this was the before, this is after. You can see we made the video more warm and brought out some of those colors. Let's take a look at our next mood, which is going to be something different from this, and that is fantasy. So in this video, we have someone just sitting in a desert and they're looking pretty tense. And I can use this video and make it look like maybe he's a villain, he's an important character in a dangerous environment. Let's head to the color workspace and we're going to go in the basic correction one more time. Unlike the fun video, we're not trying to make this video bright because this is a fantasy environment and we want to make it look like a serious environment too. We need to actually kind of darken the video and create more shadows and contrast. So for exposure, let's bring it down. Increase that contrast. Reduce those highlights. Darken the shadows. Increase those whites. And darken those blacks. You can go pretty back with the blacks. Once you have your lighting, you can now add the cold temperature. So this is not a warm memory, but a rather serious mood. So we want to add a cold temperature. As for tint, we can just add maybe a little bit of green. Just bring it towards the left. And already this is looking pretty fantasy-like. This is before, this is after. We're not quite done with it, but so far it's looking pretty good. Now let's head down to the creative section and maybe increase those vibrance and a little bit of that saturation. Now onto the color wheels. The combination that we're going to use for fantasy is a mixture of teal and orange. Let's begin with the highlights and create that teal color. Grab the sky towards the bottom, something like that. And for the midtones, we're going to make it orange. Shadows, we can just, again, bring it towards the warmer side. Maybe you can go for red. So just pull it up there. I also have face detection turned on, so it will not colorize these skin tones. So now we added those two colors. Of course, you can go further than this, but for my example, this is good. Now use the sliders on the side to work with the luminosity. And there we go. I can now go back to maybe the curves and just work around with what I have. So there is my fantasy mood that I created using the Lumetri Color workspace. Let's take a look at it before and after. This is before. This is after. Pretty easy. And now this is the perfect fantasy environment for maybe a Transformer car to appear or an alien to show up. So for fantasy, you want to use a combination of orange and teal to get something like this. The next mood is sad. I'm going to use this clip that we used before. And the goal with sad is to make the video really dark and blue. So let's begin by working with the basic correction. I'm going to go to a scene where both of these subjects are there. The video itself is already dark. Remember that the lighting of the video when it was shot is also important. So if you are shooting your own clips, you want to work with different angles of light and different light intensities to aid the post-production process. So because this video is already dark and we're getting these harsh shadows, this will help me make a pretty convincing sad scene. So I don't need to do much with the light section. We can actually skip exposure and just work with the rest. Contrast, increase that. Darken those shadows. The more contrast, the better. And for the whites, we can kind of increase it and darken those blacks. For temperature, of course, we want to make it cold. And maybe a little bit of a magenta tint. Now let's go to the creative section. For sad movies, there's actually not a lot of vibrant colors because things are not as lively as they usually are. So you want to actually decrease the vibrance and the saturation. Not exactly black and white, but a kind of desaturated look will help you with that sad feel. Once you have your vibrance set, I will go into the color wheels and begin the actual color combination. So grab the midtones towards the blue side. Just pull it down like this. And now we're getting a pretty sad look. I don't need to do much with the highlights since we're not getting that much of them. For shadows, we can just pull it down towards either the purple side or more blue. It depends on your video, but for me, a little bit of purple is going to help make that video look more sad. Then just work with the different sliders for luminosity. I'm just going to go back in basic correction and increase the blacks. So there's my sad scene. Let's take a look at it before and after. Before, after. So sad moods are desaturated, dark, and blue. So these combinations are going to make your video look more sad, more isolated, and more cold. So that's my sad mood. Let's move on to the next one, which is scary. So for this one, I just have a swing just rocking on its own. And I want to make this look scary, mysterious, and kind of make it look like something really big and gory is going to happen. Let's say this is a scene from a horror movie. Head down to basic correction and darken the entire clip by using these sliders available. Once you have adjusted the lighting, we can now make the video cold and add a green tint. You want to desaturate the video too. So this is similar to the sad mood. The only difference is that we're adding green on top of that blue. So it is dark, it is desaturated, but when it comes to color wheels, we're actually adding green to the shadows. So if there is nature in your video, you actually want to add more green and then just add some blue to the midtones. So it's a combination of green and blue that makes a video look more mysterious, scary, and frightening. For highlights, you can just add a little bit of green. Then just work with the following sliders. So there is my scary scene. It also helps to add a little bit of vignette to the edges and just make this swing look really scary. This is before, this is after. So this is our scary mood. a combination of blue, green, and dark. Next is a tense mood. Again, we have the same Sahara setting and we have some action going on. So as you recall, yellow was the color for action, and we're going to pair that with the color green. So it's not teal like the fantasy example we had, but just green. Similar to the other examples, we want to begin with darkening the clip, creating contrast. Once you're done, we can add some yellow color and bring the tint towards the green side. Now this is similar to the fantasy example. We do want the vibrance brought up and the saturation as well. The only thing is in the color wheels where we add some green to the highlights, and we're going to add some orange to the shadows. Pair it with some red from the midtones and you're almost there. I'm going to bring back some of my highlights. And now we do have this blue color from the original video. And I just want to turn that blue into something closer to green. And I can achieve that by using the HSL secondary. Grab the color right there. Let's check it with the color gray. And just increase the luminosity. Blur the edges and denoise the selection. Now we can just add some of that green. Perhaps lower the saturation, it was a bit too intense. I'm going to bring this back. Lower the saturation, add some green to there, and a little bit of yellow. Since that section of the sky was already blue, we're adding yellow temperature to make it green, because blue and yellow makes green. And just finish it off with a little bit of green tint. So there's my tense movie scene. I'm just going to go back once I have my colors and just create more contrast. You can also add a little bit of vignette to make this more intense. Work with your curves and make it perfect for your tense mood. Depending on what you have in the video, you would want to balance the amount of green and orange. Let's say if you had a forest in the video, then you would want more green than orange. But here, since we had more sand, then we're adding more orange than green. Let's take a look at our next example, which is playful. So here I just have someone dancing. And for playful videos, you want to increase the brightness. So it's something like the fun mood that we did in the beginning. But with playful videos, you want to add some pink, purple, and red. So these combinations are really helpful. And before that, we need to increase the lightness like we did in our fun mood. So you want to increase those shadows. Maybe lower those highlights if they're too much, decrease those blacks, and maybe decrease those whites. Less contrast is ideal. So just with the basic correction alone, we brought out more of those colors. Now down to the color wheels, we're going to introduce the color pink to the combination. So we're adding a combination of warm colors and the color pink. So for shadows, let's add that pink color. Just drag it right on. Highlights, let's add a warmer color like maybe red. And we can balance things out with a little bit of cold for the midtones. Another thing about these playful videos is that you want to create less contrast. So just grab the contrast slider towards the left and we're creating a sort of faded film look to make this video look more playful. Go to the curves adjustment, lift the shadows a bit. If the color is too much, you can just add a little bit of green. because green cancels out magenta, which is what we had here. So we're not adding green, we're just canceling out the color that's already there. Now I can just go back here and finish up my color wheels. So now we used a combination of pink, purple, and red and made the video more flat to create a playful mood. This is before, this is after. We have created a completely different mood. Our final mood is futuristic. Here I have a video that has some neon colors, and this is perfect for the mood that we're about to create. So for futuristic videos, you want to add the color purple and blue. At the same time, you want to darken things because apart from being futuristic, it's also a serious scene. And we already have this underground setting, so we want to emphasize on the fact that this is underground and this is a futuristic setting. Decrease your exposure, add contrast, increase highlights, darken those shadows, increase the whites, darken the blacks. So with lighting alone, we have created that contrast that futuristic videos naturally have. Let decrease those exposure, add some blue temperature because this is not exactly a happy scene, add some magenta tint, then head down to creative and increase the vibrance. So color is really important in futuristic videos. You want to increase the vibrance and saturation of whatever color you have, especially if it's a neon color that we have because of this light. Add to vibrance saturation. I also applied some sharpness. Then head down to color wheels and we can begin with the combination that we talked about. So for shadows, let's add some purple. Bring this all the way towards the side. And some blue for the midtones. As for highlights, we can add a little bit of a pink since we have some pink going on. Finish things off with a curves adjustment. And we're finished with our futuristic mood. This was before, this is after. We can again add a little bit of vignette to bring emphasis on the subject. If at any point you want to create those bars that are pretty common in cinematic movies, you can just add the crop effect, add it onto your clip, then scroll down to remove maybe 10% from the top and 10% from the bottom. And that's how you can create those cinematic bars. You can repeat this for all the other moods. And if you want, you can even make it a square, something like the Zack Snyder film, by adding a percentage to all 4 of these options. So those were some examples of moods that require certain color combinations. Going forward, you're going to have to use these color combinations to portray that emotion within your video. In further lessons, we're going to take a look at more specific moods and how we can color grade to achieve that certain style. So I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson, and I will see you in the next one.